am going to have a special guest today. I can't wait for you to meet her. So hang on while we wait for her to arrive and for this to go live on Instagram. So it just takes a couple minutes or a couple seconds. So anyways, here we go. All right, we are ready, and I'm just waiting for Christina to come in. How are you guys doing? I just can't believe summer is like over. I shouldn't say that. Hey, Christina!
Going.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. I love seeing you and talking with you. You're so much fun.
Well, thanks. You too. This is going to be a blast. I'm going to pour
I
my water into this so it doesn't spill everywhere.
Okay, cool. So while you're doing that, I'm just going to introduce you. This is my friend Christina Deering. She's a shaman, intuitive healer. She's amazing. And so she's going to talk a little bit about her journey, what she's done, give us some tips, and maybe share a story or two as well. So I'm just so happy you're here. So
I'm so
welcome.
here too.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for holding this space. I think it's going to be really fun. Let's dig into all the things. I'm
Yeah.
ready.
Oh, good. So if you guys don't know Christina, you should follow her on Instagram. She does something really fun that I just love. She does Wednesday wig outs. Is that what you call it?
Wig It Out Wednesdays. Yeah.
And she puts
Yeah.
on a crazy wig. It's
Yeah.
super fun. And then she pulls oracle cards. So you guys should definitely follow her. She's, what's your handle? Christina Deering? Is that what it is?
It's at I am Christina Deering, and then it's Deering.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
So first off, let's start by having you introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do. You will do it much better than I did. So
I love it. No, you did great. This is perfect. I love this. So I'm Christina Deering. I am a shaman and a business intuitive. And so basically I support people in healing what's in the way of what they want. And I also help them channel and get guidance from their highest self on how to actually build a business that's in alignment with their soul.
oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, I
So
love it.
beautiful. Yeah, and I actually did a clearing with you, which was amazing. I just felt so good after that. So I have had experience with her, so I can vouch for the power that you can received from her by working with her. It was an amazing session. So anyways, I wanted you to kind of share your journey of where you were and how you got to where you are, because from our conversations, that's not where you haven't always been in the intuitive shamanic healing space, correct?
Right. Yeah, totally. It's such an interesting journey because I feel like, growing up, I kind of was like the good girl, like check all the boxes. Like, the next thing is like go to college. The next thing is this, that. So I studied marketing. I went to college for marketing and organizational communication and worked in marketing for 15 years, which is great in the sense that it translated well to my business. But, had I stopped there, I mean, I was working in marketing. I was doing marketing for Terminex for a little while. And it's like, I think about, I was like, this isn't it. Like, there's got to be something more, like I want there to be something more, something that I can lean into. So, like, I don't feel like I'm fully self-actualizing, And so I kept getting this ping that there would be something more there for me. And so it wasn't until so let me back up a little bit. My friend had seen this psychic, and I was not into any of that at first. And she'd seen this psychic, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, she was amazing. She had this piece of paper front and back of all these channeled messages. You have to go see her." And I was like, "I mean, I'm open. Like, whatever, let's go." So I called her. I made an appointment, and she's like, "I have an appointment available in 9 months." And I remember being like, "I think I'm available in 9 months." Like, that's like I'm pretty sure my calendar's clear 9 months from now. So I pencil her in, and then 9 months later, it lands on the day that my dog passed away. And I remember reaching out to her and being like, "I've never done this. Do I need to be in the right headspace? Like, I don't know what I don't know." And she was like, "It's totally up to you, but I have this contract with the universe that says that these appointments land on the day that you need them most." So I was like, "Well, now I have to go." Like, I don't know what to expect, but I know that I have to go. So I go to this session, And the first thing she says to me, because I said, "Oh, my puppy passed away." She said the first thing she said to me was, "Lady wasn't a puppy, right? She was 14 and a half." And I just remember being like, "Uh-oh, like what's going on?" She's like, like my arm hair is like sticking straight up, like, oh my gosh, she's so tapped into something. And so I was like, whoa. So I go into the session. She's like, she came through for you. She's got messages for you and all this stuff. Like, it was all of a sudden I went from thinking, oh my gosh, this relationship has ended to suddenly like, oh, this relationship is changing form. Interesting. Like, I can still speak to her. I can still get messages from her. Like, whoa. So it just started to really kind of crack me open into like, there's so much more available to us in this lifetime if we desire it, if we want to start leaning in. And so that was kind of, I would say, one of my biggest spiritual awakenings was like, there's something so much more out there. So keep following the breadcrumbs was like the message I kept getting. Because I was like, well, now that I know, I want to quit my job and I want to, and it was like, well, you have to build something first. So you can, or at least that was my mindset. I need to build something so I can lean into it when the timing is right. And then I built a coaching business on the side and then started to scale it. And then eventually was able to do it full time. And then it became like what it is today, which is there's all these healing modalities that are brought in. Started studying all the different things that really interested me, like Reiki, shamanism, breath work. And then it's turned into what it is today, just from following those breadcrumbs and having that huge spiritual awakening.
Oh, that's so amazing. So I'm just curious, what were some of the messages? I've never asked you this. What are some of the messages you got from your dog?
She kept telling me it wasn't my fault. Like, I think I was really blaming myself for the experience.
For her dying? You were blaming yourself?
Yeah, like, and it wasn't my fault. But I think as mothers, we just want to take on the pain of the world. At least I did at that time. And now being a mother to a child, similar, where I'm like, oh, what could I have done differently? Could I have saved? All these things. And so one of the big messages that came through was like, it's not your fault. I was ready to leave. You're going to start to understand how the body is telling the story of the soul. Like the pneumonia that she ended up getting was actually like the bot, like she was just ready. So like sometimes we'll manifest these diseases because we're ready to go to the other side. And so that's part of pneumonia. That experience is kind of like almost like the soul saying, I'm tired. Like, I'm just really tired. So sometimes people, young kids will get pneumonia and then they come back and they're like, okay, let me just change the way I was doing life. Or at any age, someone could get it. But you do hear a lot of people in older age will get pneumonia. And so I started studying what are the physical ailments telling the story of our soul. So she was kind of waking me up to my body is telling you something. And like, I actually manifested this so that I could go to the other side because my hips weren't working and I was tired and I was ready to move to the other side. These type of messages, very specific, not just like, I love you, like everything's okay. It was like very specific messages, which is really cool.
Oh my God, that's so powerful. So, so powerful.
Yeah.
I love that you were getting messages from her and relieving that, the pain of guilt, I've lost loved ones too. And it is so powerful to know that even though they're not here physically with us, they're looking over us and they are sharing messages and they are with us, and it's just a different type of relationship, and it's so powerful, really, as you lean into it. And I've started to lean into that more, and it's made a difference, right? To know that
Huge difference.
Maybe you lose them physically, but they're still in your life.
Yeah. My biggest fear was losing someone that I loved to death, and then it happened. And then I realized, oh, that was my biggest spiritual awakening. I'm waking up to what this actually is. It's our soul dropping into these bodies. The soul is eternal. The body is, has the expiration date. And at some point we're like, I've done what I needed to do in this body. I'm moving on. I'm ready to be, weightless. So it's actually like, it feels like graduation. It feels like exciting. It feels fun to be on the other side. There's no weight. There's no pressure. There's not all the things that we tend to put on ourselves here sometimes. None of that's on the other side. And so it's like, it's a divine release, if you will.
Oh, that's beautifully said.
Yeah.
So beautiful. So beautiful. So can you share a little bit more? I know you sort of did with this whole experience with your dog dying, but can you give us an example of like how your life has changed since you became more spiritual and tapped into your shamanic healing and all your gifts that you have?
Yeah. I mean, it's changed in every way. I think Just living in alignment with my soul. I think, I'm now living my purpose. And I kept getting that ping. I was like, I know that there's something more. Like, I'm 22 and I want to retire. Like, that's problem, like I need to figure out like something else. But it took me a while to kind of wake up and have the confidence to go after what I wanted. And I think that was a big one where it was kind of like, could this work? If I build it, will they come? And it was like kind of the leap of faith and putting myself in big rooms. And, but I will say like channeling has been one of the most powerful modalities, is just like to get the guidance from the other side of what I already know to be true. But it's like, I just needed the validation, and to know that I can do that. I don't have to go through another person to do it was so liberating. Like, we can all do that if we turn it back on and we desire to learn how to do that, because we're all born with the ability. And then sometimes it shuts down because of, what happened in childhood, where they're like, oh, honey, that's just your imagination. Or we get invalidated from what we're receiving. And so then we assume, oh, that's not right, or it's not true. And then, but it is. And so the more I realized my gifts were coming online, the more that I stopped judging them, the more that I trusted, the more I just played and got curious. And it was like, wow, I don't have to go through someone else now. I mean, I still do from time to time. Sometimes I've got my blinders on where I'm like, actually, I need someone else to channel on my behalf for this one. But there are moments where I'm like, to be able to do that myself is so liberating.
So can you like this is all tying into like how to create more abundance in your life. So is there a simple tool that you could teach everyone about how to tap into maybe a way of channeling or starting to wake that up
Oh, yeah.
as
Yeah.
a
One of
first.
my Yeah, I love that. So for channeling specifically, and then we can go into like even like abundance and things of that nature. What I like to do is called automatic writing. And so what I do is I just simply will kind of calm my body. I'll get down into my body kind of like you would in a meditation state. I'll get a journal and a piece of paper, or journal and a pen, and then I will close my eyes and just say, I'm opening up and protecting my lines of communication with all those that are of the highest vibration and for my highest good. And so those two caveats are really important, because sometimes things that are for our highest good feel like a slap across the face, like an illness, so whatever it is, it's like, okay, but it woke me up, right? But when we're channeling, let's call in just highest vibration and highest good. Like, you want it to be both, because you don't just want to receive messages from anything. Like, you just want to say like, I want it to be just light and love. So set yourself up for success first.
That's
Um, Open up your lines of communication. And then what I do is I just simply will wait, and I will just, when I start to like, and the big thing, here's the big caveat for this experience. For the sake of playing, pretend like everything you receive is real. Like, pretend like your imagination, all the words you hear, the things you see, what you're feeling, pretend like it's all real for the sake of the experience.
okay.
And then it simply becomes that. So it's a great way to get out of our own way. So then what you do is you just land into your body, and then let's say the word Jesus comes through, or you just have this like presence that feels like Jesus, and you're like, Jesus is in the room. I'm not going to question it. Let's just go there. So then I'll write down, hi, Jesus. And then I'll ask Jesus a question, and then I will, with my eyes still closed, write down the response. And so I just start to write it down, and then anything that feels significant, I circle. And then I just keep going. And then it's like, when it feels complete, it's like, okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that has messages for me about XYZ? And then maybe it feels like a relative, or you hear the word of like your Aunt Deborah or someone, like you just hear a name, or you see, or you feel. It'll all come through in different ways. For, again, the sake of the exercise, pretend like it's real. Okay, my Aunt Deborah's in the room. Thank you. Aunt Deborah, what message do you have for me? Start to write it down. Circle what feels significant, and continue this until you feel complete, and then say, thank you. I'm closing and protecting my lines of communication. And then you open your journal and you read through it, and you're going to probably surprise yourself, because during it, you'll be like, oh yeah, that feels normal. Okay, cool. Interesting. And then you'll read it and you'll be like, that was not me. That doesn't feel like advice I would have given myself, but it feels really profound. And then follow it. That's a big one too, is like, you've set the tone that it's only light and love coming through. So when you get the guidance, it doesn't want to live in a shoebox. It wants you to actually do something with it. Start to do something with what you received. So if it's like, start to do in-person retreats. This is what you're being called into. And there's a little bit of fear there. start to take a few baby steps, start to maybe look at some locations, start to maybe think about or study how someone else did an in-person event, right? Like these are little nuggets that are telling us and kind of guiding us. And the goal is to follow the guidance. And then that's where the magic and the miracles start to unfold.
So being a total skeptic, like for somebody who's never done this or never been exposed to it, how do you stay open without judging those things that pop in while you're doing the writing? Because we all have our judge, right? And we're writing, it's like, oh, that's stupid. Why am I writing that down? Or that can't be possible. Like, how do you just stay open so that you can receive everything that's coming through?
Mm-hmm. A couple things coming through. Channeling and anything is just a mirror. So if we're judging the process, there's part of us that judges everything, right? So it's just a mirror for saying, oh, interesting. There's a part of me that wants to analyze this, and it's just, usually it's because of the way that we were brought up. It's like, oh, let's be intellectual about this. Let's talk about what's rational. And our intuition is not a rational process. Like we're meant to actually do the both and. We're meant to connect to, yes, the data, and also there's a gut feeling too. And a lot of times we'll feel this with people. It's like, he looks great on paper, but he is not my person, right? And that's the intuition where it's like, it sounds rational. I should marry this person, but he is the last person on earth I want to sleep with, or he's the last person on earth that I want to hang out with, right? And it's like just honoring that there's something deeper. There's something else that's coming online that's telling us it's just not my person, right? And it doesn't mean he's a bad person. It just means he's not my soulmate. And so just recognizing there is no right or wrong and just starting to kind of play with the energy, because I was a skeptic for sure when I first started, where I was like, is this real? Can this be real? And so the way that I played with that energy was, one, I started to heal the parts of me that was judging, right? Like that's a whole different beast where it's like, okay, where did this originate from? Let's go back to those moments and start to heal it. But the other part was, for when I was receiving the messages, I was like, what if I, just for the sake of this game, followed the intuitive hit? Even if it doesn't make a lot of sense, what if I did it? I'm going to track it and see what happens when I do. So little things like that, where it's like, you should go to this event. And it's like, it's a bunch of real estate executives. I'm a shaman. Like, why would I go to this event? This makes no sense. And then I go to the event, and then I meet someone who becomes a business partner, and then I end up on her podcast, and she ends up on mine, and then all of a sudden all these doors open. And it's like, oh, it didn't make sense on paper. My rational mind is like, you don't sell homes. Why are you here? But for some reason it felt really expansive, felt juicy. So I decided to lean in, start to collect the evidence that is working. I think when we're analytical, the more evidence we can collect, the more we'll start to believe in the process. But it is about just saying, for the sake of just being curious for a minute, for the sake of doing an experiment, let's see what happens. So kind of treat it like a science experiment.
Oh, that's great advice. Great advice. Oh, that's beautiful. So, going back to abundance, what are some ways to bring in abundance? Because I feel like that's kind of the energy that's happening right now in the world. People want more abundance. I can feel it starting to shift, but the energy hasn't been that way for a while. And so how do we call more of that in?
Mm-hmm. There's several different ways. I think sometimes taking money out of the equation to find your abundance is actually really powerful, because there's so much charged energy around money. And it's so interesting, because it's like, it used to be cocoa beans, and think about how funny that is to be like, oh my God, I'm so charged about my cocoa beans. You know what I mean? And it's like, now it's like, they're just cocoa beans. Like, you go to the store, you could pass them on the aisle and you just be like, whatever. But now it's just dirty paper and numbers on a screen, right? Money. But when we can actually take that out of the equation for a minute and start to say, let me find my abundance in other areas that are less charged. Let's start there. One of the ways that I started to really wake up to abundance is I'm sitting in my backyard and I'm starting to hear all the little insects. And I'm like, this is kind of wild to think that in that cricket right there, or in that grasshopper, there's an entire system at play. Think about how many little cells are in there, all the little organs, all the little, all the little things that are inside of this insect. There's an entire universe inside of this tiny little insect. And think about how many insects are here and how many universes are inside of universes. And I just started being like, whoa, there's an abundance in my backyard. There's an abundance of that right now. That's interesting. There's an abundance of leaves. Just starting to really recognize where there's a surplus, and and there's overflow, and then starting to notice that in different things where it's like there's an abundance of love available to me right now, and what if I give more into the space, and then I start to receive more of that love too. And so you're kind of playing with the energy of abundance. Like there can be an unstoppable amount of love if I lean into the energy of that, then I can start to receive that back. And so just noticing that money is just an exchange of energy. And
Yes.
so how are we exchanging energy in different ways? Are we bringing more love into the space? Are we noticing? Are we getting more present to the things that are around us that have us really connect to the abundance of the moment? Because the only moment that's real is now,
Mm-hmm.
versus we're so stuck on our goals sometimes. Like, let me get there. Let me try to manifest. Let me do all the things that we kind of lose the big shiny sign that says turn here. That was the shortcut, right? And so those moments are the ones that actually have us take the shortcuts to our goals. And so when we get really present, we can start to call in more abundance too, because we'll be really clear on what am I vibrating at? What's my frequency? And one of the ways that I love talking about this is, so David R. Hawkins has this map of consciousness, and it talks about the vibration of different emotions. And so you think about shame being on the bottom, it's like it's vibrating at like a 30. So he had a way of tracking this. It's vibrating at a 30. And then you go all the way up, or you go kind of up to the middle, and then neutrality. Okay, that's vibrating at about 200. Feel neutral about that thing. And then you go all the way up, and then the state of like pure enlightenment, 750.
Wow.
So you think about the different vibrations of the different feelings that we have, and then we start to recognize, okay, if I'm in shame right now, what I'm vibrating at, the thing that I want is here. I'm now vibrating here. My goal is to actually close this gap by healing what's having me feel ashamed. So it's not saying, oh, shame is bad. Now we're just adding more fuel to the fire. It's saying, like, what's coming through for me to release? Because if it's living within my body, and if I just ignore it, I'm pushing it further into a pocket, right? Or into a closet. It's still there, but I need to acknowledge it so I can release it. And that's where that big healing work comes in, where it's like, let me notice what's energetically weighing me down so that I can reach this higher state of abundance, which is living up here or living here, a little bit higher from where I was before. If I'm making $30,000 a year, my vibration might be a little bit lower. I want to make it to 60. Okay, great. So now it's raising a little bit. What did I have to heal that was in the way to get me high? Now 100. Ooh, now let's go 7 figures. Now let's keep rising. So it's about knowing that we're going to oscillate. The goal isn't to just stay here, but the goal is to notice when our vibration is lower and connect with what's the root cause of it. Not like what's the trigger, what's the root of it. And that's where the magic happens. Because sometimes we'll interact with something, the trigger, and we think, oh, it's that thing. It's like, no, what does that remind you of from when you were a kid? Or from even beyond that, past lives, things of that nature. Like it's deeper than just the thing that's lighting you up right now. I always talk about it like it's a hot pan. Like the trigger is I touched the pan, ouch, but it was already hot. Why was it hot already? That's the root. What's the pan, not what's the interaction. Does that make sense?
That's such a great analogy. That is
Yeah.
such a great analogy. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I love how you tie the abundance back to more than just money, because I think so many of us tie abundance just to money. And you're right, money is just an exchange of energy. I've been thinking about that so much more lately in the last 6 months. It's not. And it's very freeing to think of money as an exchange of energy versus holding it tight like the cocoa beans and protecting it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It makes
Yeah.
all the difference. It's very freeing for me, like
Yeah.
to know it's an exchange of money. I mean, energy, and not holding on to it really tightly.
Exactly. Because then you think about how that translates with energy, where it's like I'm holding on to energy as if I'm not going to get energy back. It's like, but everything is energy. I'm energy. You're energy. This cup is energy. This experience is energy. And so it's like now I'm not allowing free flow to move through me, like different energetic experiences. And I always talk about like, you know, think about the free master classes that people have, where
Mhm.
like for me, I'll sign up for like all of them. And then it's like, maybe I'll show up, maybe I won't. It kind of depends because I haven't put my energy in the space. I gave them my name and my email. That's it. That's different from me saying I'm paying $97 for the masterclass, or I'm paying $10,000 to be in a VIP experience with this coach. And so if I'm
You
paying
show
10
up differently.
so different. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be there early. I'm going to be taking notes. I'm going to be in the front seat. Like, and so that's me just saying I'm really dedicated to what I want to learn and I'm going to receive a lot more from it.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's beautiful is when we as entrepreneurs price in alignment with our soul and we say, I want to charge $10,000 for this experience because I can now land here with both feet and fully serve. Because I think we forget about that too, where it's like, oh, I got to give it away for free. And it's like, well, then you're in corporate and then you're trying to be a mom and then you're trying to give this away for free. And now you're doing the sinner splits everywhere and no one's getting the best of you anymore. So if you want to show up and be the best of yourself, you have to charge energetically in alignment with what would have you serve best in the space.
Oh, that's so good. It's so good. Yeah, because I think we forget about that. We as the entrepreneur and offering, we're always thinking about the customer or the participant and what they need instead of how we need to show up. And that's so true. You can just show up so much more if you're committed and you feel in alignment with the value that you're giving.
Exactly. Yes, I show up differently where I'm like, I can really land in the space versus when I was in corporate and being a mom and trying to do this on the side. And it was like, oh my gosh, you're getting the rundown version of me, versus the one that's like, I'm fully committed to this space. Let's go energy, which is so
Right?
different. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. So, for any of you who are just joining, this is my friend Christina Deering, and she is a shaman and an intuitive healer. And so, if anybody has questions, just put it in the chat. I'm sure she'd be happy to answer any questions. So please do that. And if you want to follow Christina, I highly recommend it. She has some fun things that she does on her IG. She's at I am Christina Deering is her IG handle. So I'll put it in the chat too, so people will have that.
Amazing.
Let's see. So can you give an example of how you can help an entrepreneur with your intuitive healing and your shamanic powers? Like what can people get from you if they hire you as a coach? And
Yeah. So much. It's like, I think I really wanted to invest in someone like myself. I was finding I had to invest in the strategic coaching and have my healer on the side. So I found that I really wanted to combine both. I wanted to invest in someone who did both, which is why I do both. And so what I think is so powerful is like when entrepreneurs come into the space, a lot of it is about really connecting to their soul and building the business in alignment with their soul. And so that's a lot of what I support them in doing is like opening up their channel, connecting to the spiritual realm, getting the guidance. Because the way that I always describe it is it's like you might hire a coach and they're like, you can make 7 figures taking all your calls at night because I'm a night owl. And you're like, okay, I'm going to copy paste the business strategy and take all my calls at night, but you're a morning person, right? And so you're like copying and pasting, but you're not building it in alignment with your soul and your energy. And the goal, there's no vitality in that, right? And so while it might be a business strategy, it's not yours. And so I help people really connect to what are my business strategies, what's in alignment with my energy, what lights me up the most, what feels the juiciest. And often the thing that we want to do will excite us and then we'll hit the wall where we're like, I want to do in-person retreats, but oh my God, what if I build it and no one comes? So we're pushing beyond, we're seeing the next iteration. We channel, do in-person retreats, and now we're hitting the wall that says, who are you to do retreats? What if you build it and no one comes? And all of the limiting beliefs start to come in, right? And so our goal then as a healer, what I do is I help them understand where is the block coming from? Where is the box coming from? Is it from this lifetime? Is it from past lifetimes? Can we connect into, and so I'll do things like go into their Akashic records to better understand where is the block coming from, and we move it. So then I start to move it through different healing modalities that allow that energy to move so it's no longer in the way of what you want. And then they're like, I feel like I can build the retreats. Okay, let's do it. And then they start to build it, and then they get their next block. Okay, amazing, beautiful. It's coming through because you're ready for it to move. Let's move the next iteration of you expanding, because every time we expand, we'll typically hit the wall. And the goal is, where is the wall coming from? And let's break it down. Let's release it. And then you go beyond. So it's like a little bit of a breadcrumb. You continue to follow it, and then you release it. And then all of a sudden, it's freedom to go after what you want.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm.
Amazing.
The best. I love it. Yeah. And then we talk a lot about wealth energetics and soul aligned pricing and things of that nature too, which is really empowering.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. I love that you talk about doing and planning your business that feels aligned to you, because there are a lot of coaches out there and there's a lot of philosophies of how to run and build your business,
Mhm.
and how one person says it and their philosophy may work for them, but it may not work for you. And I've encountered that myself personally, when I've heard people talk and I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea, but that just doesn't sit with me. It feels kind of
Mhm.
icky. And
Yes.
I get what they're doing, but I don't know how I would do that.
Hmm. Me.
So
Yeah.
it's
And that icky feeling, that's your intuition saying
right,
it's not right or wrong. It's just not mine.
right, right.
Hmm.
It's not gonna, and because I can't step into it because of
Yeah.
that, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So I love those feelings where I like welcome them, where I'm like, okay, cold DMing is not my thing. I'm not going to be
Right.
copying and pasting a bunch of DMs to people because I personally don't feel good when I'm a cold DM. When someone like reaches out to me, they're like, hello, like in parentheses name, and I'm like immediately like delete. Um, just for me, because it's more relationship based. It's an energy exchange. And so that's really me connecting into like what's in alignment with me, and then that's why it works because I have all the vitality to build because it's in alignment with me. It's not feeling heavy. I'm not forcing myself to do something that doesn't feel in alignment.
Right. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. So, if you like, what would be one piece of advice you'd give to somebody, or give to your younger, why don't we use you, what one piece of advice would you give to your younger self that you now know that you wished you knew?
Mm. Oh, so much. One would be follow the breadcrumbs. I think so often I was like, I need to know everything right now. I need to know my purpose right now. I need to, and I just was like, so like, I have to know it all right now to feel safe to do the thing. And it was like, I'm not going to be given everything at once because I can't handle everything at once. If I knew everything, then it's like we're still learning on our last day here on earth. So we're not meant to know it all. And so follow the breadcrumbs. Start to say like this could lead me to this, could lead me to this, could and then what's fun is when I would say release the control around like it having to work out that exact way. Know that it's going to be this or something better, because the second it was like, oof, okay, it could work out this way, or wow, I'm actually really glad this didn't work out because this worked out even better. So follow the breadcrumbs, start to release the control, be really present to the present moment. That's where you see the neon signs, that are going to take you in the other direction. Follow those even when they don't feel, when no one else gets it. One of my biggest things too, I would tell myself is when no one else gets it, that's how you know it's definitely yours. That's how you know it's
Wow.
because you're not, mom isn't telling you to do it, dad isn't, your friends aren't telling you to do it. So when you get the intuitive hit, you feel like you need to build it, something about it feels so good, and no one else around you gets it, that's how you know it's absolutely yours. And to definitely build it because you came here to build it, not mom, not dad, not friend, not husband. You did. And so to follow it anyways, to have the bravery to follow it anyways, to put yourself in rooms that have you find your bravery when you're scared, have the coach, have the healer, have the mastermind, whatever feels like it's in alignment, lean into those big rooms because they're going to have you not only dream, but dream bigger. Normalize that experience.
Oh, that's so good. So good. So good. So, wrapping up, is there anything that somebody should know about you? Are you doing any special programs or trainings that
Mm.
people need to know about?
Yeah. So one of my favorite places to play is my podcast. So the You Unlimited podcast is so much fun. I just had someone on her name's Laura Tynan, but she's known as the Witch of Wall Street, which is so fun
Oh my
because she
God,
talks
that's
all about, yeah, she talks all about investing in the stock market, but how she's like, bring your intuition in too. Like let's have it be an intuitive process, but let's also learn the basics of finance. And so it was a really like I learned so much from that episode because it was just like so empowering. It was so beautiful to witness this woman who's created millions for herself and so many others on, how to, do have wealth and woo come together, but in like a very strategic way around, finance and the stock market. So it was very niche, but it was also like overarching. The concepts that we talked about have to do with life in general. So come to that You Unlimited podcast. There's so many fun people that have like interesting points of view. They're like 6, 7, 8-figure entrepreneurs that just talk about the way that they built what they built and all of the ways that they stumbled along the way. And I think it really normalizes the fact that all of us are figuring it out as we're going. No one has it all figured out. I think a lot of people are like, oh my God, look at this person. She's got it all figured out, or he's got it all figured out. It's like, we're all just like flying by the seat of our pants, trying to figure it out, learning as we're failing. And so I think it really normalizes the entrepreneurial journey is like, wow, like not everyone has it figured out, or wow, that's a really good nugget. I needed that. Like that's going to change my business model. So play in that space. That place is so much fun. So it's on Apple, it's on Spotify, and then Wigging Out Wednesdays, like I put on the wig and I channel and I pull Oracle cards. So if you're into Oracle cards, that's a really fun place to just hang out, play, get a card drawn for yourself. And then I think one of the biggest things is like healing doesn't have to feel so heavy, which I think is why I throw on the wig, because people remember it, but also they're just like, okay, I'm laughing like at you and with you, and it doesn't have to feel so heavy.
It is really fun.
Feeling, So yeah, that's one of the things that why I do it is just because like it brings lightness into my own life. And then other people are like, who is this girl wearing an afro? Like what's going on? Like what's happening? Or what is this like redhead, or whatever. I change it up. It's purple, it's red, it's big, it's, small, it's mustache, it doesn't matter. But either way, it just brings some levity into healing, channeling. Like life is meant to be fun. Right. And so like just lean into the fun. And that's one of the many ways that I do that.
Oh, it is so fun. I love seeing it. So it makes me laugh. And it's perfect in the middle of the week. It kind of just brings a little bit of laughter to my day and the week. So I enjoy it very, very much. So is the best place for people to reach out to you is on Instagram?
Yeah, I would say start on Instagram. I am Christina Deering. That's the handle at I am, and then CHRISTINA, and then Deering, DEERING. You can find me there. It's such a fun place to play. I'm just always sharing out some fun stuff, some funny stuff, and some deep stuff. We're meant to feel it all, like meant to not be scared of our shadows and also simultaneously like savor the heaven on earth moments. Like let's do both. That's what we came here for.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I think everybody learned something really cool, and I appreciate your time and having this great conversation, Christina.
You're amazing. Seriously, thank you so much. For everyone that's tuning in, like, this is such a beautiful, like, soft place to land. Like, I feel like the experts that you bring in the space, like, your way of guiding conversations, like, it just is like, there's safety in learning, and it feels so good, and it feels like home, and there's something to be said about this space. It's just you've created like a homey like space where people can just really lean in and learn something new, and it feel really nourishing at the same time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I enjoy doing it. It's really fun because I always learn something really great doing these. So
yeah, me too. That's why I love having the podcast myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just learned so much. Like I get to call this my job. Like what's happening?
I know, right?
Yeah,
right.
So fun. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's connect soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.
You too.